In this video, I'm discussing the idea that if you're wanting to hear from your daimon, to receive guidance from your daimon, sometimes the easiest time to do that is when you're at your lowest point. My name is Patrick Troy. I'm an award-winning writer, a board-certified hypnotherapist, a published cartoonist, and a daimon enthusiast. For the last few years, I've been really diving into this concept of the daimon, and I'm just sharing what I learn and what I think about on this YouTube channel. And if you've watched some of my past videos, you may notice for the past few ones, I've been wearing the same thing. I'm currently working 3 jobs, and then we're gearing up for Christmas right now. So changing clothes has become the least of my concerns right now. But let's get on with the topic. I think a lot of us probably know what it feels like to have a dark night of the soul. And that's more than just being depressed or feeling down. But I think a dark night of the soul specifically refers to those times where our foundation, our legs, have been knocked out from under us. The things that we kind of thought we understood about the world or about life or how to do things turn out to be wrong and mistaken. If you haven't had one of those moments, man, you're lucky. but hold on, it's probably coming. But the reason moments like that, I think, are so useful when it comes to encountering the daimon is that a lot of the things we come up with that we use to navigate the world are very ego-based, in the sense that we're born and our ego is all about protection. So it's very useful in the sense that it looks around the world and it says, okay, where could we get hurt? Where could we get possibly rejected? And the ego starts developing strategies and tactics and mechanisms to keep that from happening. And while that's very useful in protecting you, and we need to be protected, it also kind of cuts you off from other experiences. It cuts you off from stepping out there. It cuts you off from authentic expression. And so when we enter the dark night of the soul, those ego mechanisms, those ego devices have kind of been shown to be not as useful to us. And so all of a sudden we find ourselves kind of reaching to find something else to prop us up, to stick under us, to become our new legs, our new foundation. And in those moments when we're looking, one of the things hopefully we can find and encounter is the voice of the daimon. If you don't know what the daimon is, first of all, there's 50 or so videos before this one that you can watch to get a quick idea. But the way I talk about the daimon here is that it's kind of this pattern for the life that optimally you could be living or should be living. Maybe it's a pattern. It's if you were an acorn, the daimon represents the blueprint to becoming an oak tree. And so, yeah, you know, most of us, I say most of it, like I'm never going to be an NBA basketball player. I'm never going to be an astronaut. I don't have the skills or the enthusiasm or the passion to go after those things, but I do have my own set of skills and passions that, as near as I can tell, were kind of inborn into me. Not that I necessarily had them when I was a baby, but the seed of them was there when I was a baby. And so if I start to follow those things, and I don't worry so much about ego concerns like protection and not being rejected, if I follow those inborn passions, then that kind of represents the voice of the daimon. It's the path of this life that is an optimal life for me. If you find yourself, as you're watching this video, if you find yourself having a dark night of the soul, it's understandable if your tendency would be to kind of steer into the skid of the ego. Like, you know, this sucks. I need more protection. I need more foundation. And so the easiest place to look is kind of where you've been before. But the whole point of the dark night of the soul is those foundations weren't appropriate. They didn't work. So it's time to find something new. Potentially, that something new can be the voice of your daimon calling to you. And so if you're at that moment, how do you hear the voice of the daemon? So here's some suggestions. The first one is, and I don't have my copy of it right now, but you've heard me talk about this book before if you've watched this channel at all. But James Hillman's The Soul's Code. That's a book all about the daemon, and he has his own theory called the acorn theory, which kind of is exactly what I talked about a minute ago. If you're an acorn moving from an acorn to an oak tree, that's what this book is all about. It's like, how do you find the inborn self and become that self? And so one of the first things I'd suggest is getting that book and just reading it. And as there's lots of examples in the book of people who kind of went from the acorn to the oak tree. And as you listen to those examples, kind of ask yourself, how am I an acorn, and what would the oak tree version of me look like? Taking into account the things I'm passionate about, the things I love, the things I feel compelled to. So that's the first thing, is track down that book and give it a read. The second thing is, I believe one of the ways the daemon speaks to us, because the daemon, at least the way I describe it, is basically the Jungian subconscious. Start paying attention to your dreams. My daemon is very active in my dream life, even going so far as to answer specific questions that I ask before I go to sleep. The daemon will give me a dream answering that question. So keep a dream journal, because the part of your dream that the part of your mind that dreams is dreams go into short-term conscious. They don't go, or short-term memory, not long-term memory. So if you think, I'll remember it in the morning, you won't. So as soon as you have any kind of inkling of a dream you had, write it down, and start looking at that dream. And dreams aren't concrete. They're not literal. They're not talking about what the images of the dream are actually showing you. Those images are metaphors. And so after you start remembering your dreams and writing them down, you need to start analyze them. You need to start to analyze them and figure out, well, what could this be a symbol for? What could this be a metaphor for? And we're going to go into that more in the channel. I haven't really touched on dream interpretation and dream analysis too much on the channel, but that's coming, because I feel like that's one of the most valuable tools you can have when trying to hear from the daemon. The other thing is make something. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to make something good. You don't have to make something to show people. Just make something. And as a matter of fact, it's probably better if you're making something you don't know how to make. Like, kind of sitting down and be like, I'm going to draw a 3-panel comic. You're like, well, I'm not a cartoonist. I don't know how to make comics. We'll do it anyway. I'm going to write a poem. Even if you've never written a poem, just write one. Go to the grocery store and just figure out what ingredients you want to use and make something. Don't follow a recipe. What you're doing by making something is you're trying to get your unconscious, your daemon, to reveal itself through this process of making. And so make something, and then when it's done, look at it, think about it, and then go make something else. Same way, same product. Doesn't have to be, if one thing was a poem, the next thing could be you're going to build a chair. I don't know. But make a couple of things, and then after you have a couple of things, try to find what's similar about them. And if they represented your unconscious trying to say something to you, maybe what's the message? So those are my 3 suggestions. If you're currently at a dark night of the soul, and you're trying to figure out what your daemon wants you to do, if you're wanting to tune into that guidance of the daemon, get that book, The Soul's Code by James Hillman. Start paying attention to your dreams, start writing them down, and make something. And I think if you can do one or all 3 of those things, or any combination of those things, you're going to be that much closer to hearing the voice of your daemon. Okay? Thanks, guys.